From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. You know, I love John and I love Catherine. Such great people to be connected with in any way. They're such wonderful people, wonderful writers, and enthusiastic people. And I'm so honored to be part of this entire program. Reading is important to me. On a very dreary, rainy day, I was talking to several men, and we had been talking for 45 minutes, an hour, and the conversation was going quite well. And the guy said to me, you know, Mr. Myers, deep inside, I think we are a lot alike. He had played basketball, he played sax, I played basketball, played a little sax. We hung out in the streets in our young days. He says, I think we were a lot alike. And I said, yeah, you know, I guess we are. But we are in a maximum security prison, and I'm going home, bro. I'm going home. And I began to ask him some questions about what had happened, what circumstance got him there. And he told me, and I was moved by his story. And on the way home, I said, you know, we did have similar backgrounds. We did have similar backgrounds. I was raised in a foster home. I left school in my senior year. Did all those kinds of little slippery things. But what was the difference? What was the difference? Why didn't I go the way that he had gone? And then it came to me that I could read since I was 5 years old, and I could read well. I learned to read, I don't know exactly how, but I remember my mom reading true romance magazines to me. When I was 3 and 4, I could never get my bosom to heave. No, I couldn't do some of the things. I didn't understand a lot of what she was reading, but I enjoyed being in our little Harlem kitchen, listening to her voice. I looked forward to it all the time. And by the time I was 5, I could read to her. And I could read to her, I could follow along. Barbara turned to him with upturned eyes and, you know, not understanding a lot. But what I had, no matter what happened to me, I had the ability to take advantage of every opportunity that came my way. When I needed employment, I could read and fill out the applications. When I decided to join the Army, I could pass the Army tests. Whatever came my way, I could read well enough to do it. I was getting fairly decent jobs, not based upon my academic background, because my academic background was at best slippery, slippery. But based upon my ability to read, and I read everything. My mom, well, we had a neighbor who said I should not read comic books. What was wrong with that woman? I don't know. But the kid next door to me, he was rich. Well, he was richer than me. And his mom bought him comic books all the time, and he would put them into the garbage. He would put the comic books into the garbage. I would take them, put them under my bed, so my mom wouldn't see me reading the comic books. It got to the point where I had to get little blocks of wood to lift the bed. I had so many comic books. But I read comic books. I read everything. I loved reading. Reading did things for me when I was troubled, and I often was, when my stepmom became involved in alcohol, and that was filling up my life, filling up my entire head with the anxiety. I could turn to books. I could move myself away. This guy didn't read when I was talking to him in prison. He didn't read. No opportunity that came along could he accept. I could read. I go to juvenile prisons today, and in so many of these juvenile prisons, I'm listening to young people whose vocabulary is so bad who can't read. All right, so what is it that I want to do? I want to save the world first, declare world peace, take my sword around, rescuing fair maidens. I'm big on fair maidens. No. I shouldn't say that my wife has a sword. But there are two things I would like to do. I would like to not begin the discussion, because the discussions have already started with Catherine and with John and with hundreds of other people who love books. And there's a mountain of research, though, that says that by the time young people begin school at 5, they are far, far behind. There are kids who start school with a vocabulary of 3,000 words, and other kids who begin with a vocabulary of 12,000 to 15,000 words. That's an enormous gap. That is an enormous gap. There are kids who hear 3,000 to 4,000 words, different words every month, and other kids who hear 35,000, 40,000 words. So what do we need to do? One thing I would like to do is to get people reading to babies, reading to kids 6 months, 9 months, a year. Read to the children. And I think you can do that with mentors and with grandparents and cousins and unemployed people. That's one thing I want to do. And then, as John preaches, reading has to become cool for the boys. It has to become cool. It has to be something that young people look at and say, I can do this. I can do it. There's something going on in some of the communities where when a young person gets to be 12 and 13 years old, they understand that reading is important. They know this. I ask everybody here, do you know this? And they'll all say, yes, we know that. But I'll also ask you, do you know that exercise is important? You'll all say yes, too. All right? They know that, but then they begin to rank themselves. They decide who's smart, who's not smart. And when you turn to the book, there's this tremendous anxiety that takes place, which further hampers reading. And what I would like to do is to somehow move away from that. And I think that we can do this just by starting the conversation, just by continuing the conversation that John has started and Catherine. There's a mountain of research that identifies the vocabulary problems of very young kids. There's a mountain of research that says that kids begin school with this gap, and we need to bring that research into the classroom. We need to bring it into the community and have this, and we have precedent. We have a precedent. Now, what happened at the end of the Civil War? All these people who emigrated from slavery to freedom, all these people who are now new citizens in our country, they wanted to read. They understood the importance of reading, and by God, in churches, in homes, they learned, and they did well. I'm honored by this. I'm going to wear it proudly. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. A wonderful job, a wonderful beginning. And let me say that the Children's Book Council and the Library of Congress and Center for the Book look forward very much to working with you, as we have with the other ambassadors, to make this truly a nation of readers. And we're going to start with books by Walter Dean Myers. Thanks to HarperCollins, the publisher, and their generosity, we're about to undertake a military-like maneuver as our guests leave. The books are for the kids who are here today, and Walter will go with me as soon as we're done and sit at the table, and he'll be pleased if you'll pick one of the three books to sign it for you as you exit. And these books are adults, these books are for the kids, okay? And the three books are Monster, the aforementioned, Walter Dean Myers and Ross Workman, Kick, and also an advanced, uncorrected proof, advanced copy of All the Right Stuff. And you'll be able to select one of those as you go out, and Walter will sign it for you. And we wish to thank you for being here. We wish to thank the audience for being here. Above all, we wish to thank Walter, John, Catherine, for moving us in the right direction towards becoming a nation of readers. Let's give all of our ambassadors another round of applause.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.